All right. Welcome back. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Guys Telling Stories podcast. Bill?
Yes.
This is our season premiere.
It is.
I'm Rich Douglas.
I am Bill Easton.
And, of course, our producer, Sean, is over there. Sean, how you doing?
Good, far away.
All right, Sean. Thanks a lot. Well, Bill, it feels good to be back.
I'm excited. Look at this. Look at this hookup we have here. We are going to Skype.
Oh, my gosh. You're so right. I'm actually... I'm a little scared because it is our first long-distance episode. Well, yeah, every single one we did in Season 1 was, face-to-face, and we finally figured out the technology.
Yep.
So we've got an amazing guest today, Tucker Max, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before we do, Bill, let's catch the audience up on some cool updates and some things that are happening with us.
Well, I bought a bus.
Oh, you bought a bus? What do you mean you bought a bus?
I bought a bus.
What do you
gonna run
like a school bus?
I bought a bus, an actual transit bus, and I'm gonna run some brewery tours in the fall. Pick people up at hotels and at colleges and airports maybe, and drive them to different breweries, and then bring them back.
Sounds like a cool business.
I hope so.
Yeah,
'cause I already have the bus.
Okay, so you got a bus, but the business isn't started yet.
That's correct. It'll be in the fall.
Oh, all right.
So that's new. What's new with you?
What's new for me is I'm actually leaving tomorrow. This year driving me. I'm taking a little bicycle trip, a bike trip.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to ride from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C.
Right up at the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh, yeah, we're going to go to the Lincoln Memorial, the mall. It's going to be a good time. So.
Oh, I love the mall.
Well, I'm excited about
Sears.
my bike trip. Yeah. I'm excited about you, Bill. I'm excited about this bus.
Well, thank you. We're going to have fun with it.
We'll hear some more about that. Well, if you're new to the show, welcome. If you're a longtime listener, thanks for tuning back in. We're Guys Telling Stories podcast, and you can follow us on social media at Guys Telling Stories on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Guys Tell Stories. What about the Instagram, Bill?
It's Guys Telling Stories.
It sure is. It sure is. And we are on Snapchat at Guys Tell Stories. Snap code is on our social media. That is some good stuff. Actually, Our guest today, we posted it there first, and we did some behind-the-scenes videos, so you can definitely check us out there.
Cool.
All right, so we got some other firsts we want to talk about, Bill. We got the merch going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some Guys Telling Stories merchandise. You can head to our website, guystellingstories.com, click on merch, and we got some really cool logo T-shirts.
Yep, I have a bunch of them.
I know you do. You've been ordering them like crazy. Are you giving them away to friends, or what are you doing?
I'm trying to put them on strangers.
He's putting them on strangers.
Making videos.
Well, if you didn't hear our season preview, what Bill's talking about is we're going to do a little fan design contest. So we have the ability to put your artwork, your drawings, your pictures on a Guys Telling Stories logo tee. So, incorporate our name into the T-shirt somehow. Submit those designs on the website through the form, or you can, email us, and we're going to pick one in the next couple of weeks, and we will literally get your shirt on Amazon. People can order it, and it ships, if you got Prime, in 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days.
Yeah, right to your house. So other exciting news, too. So this is really going to be something we want the fans to help us out with. We kind of joined up with Amazon, part of their associates program.
I'm
Bill.
very happy about this. This is cool.
Yeah, now a lot of fans probably aren't familiar with this, but if you head to our website, guystellingstories.com, and click the Amazon button, we get a cut of that transaction. It's free to you.
Nothing. Costs you nothing. You're on there
anyway.
anyway.
Anything. You're going to shop on Amazon anyway. We all do, for the small things, the big things. It's a great site.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple. Go to guystellingstories.com, click on the Amazon link.
It takes you right to Amazon. There's nothing else you got to do.
Yep.
That's it. Just go to our site first.
Shop like you normally would. It's completely free, and when you shop, you buy cool things.
We get a cut.
Amazon sent us a cut. Doesn't cost you a thing. So we're going to mention that, and please remember, especially the moms out there buying the diapers, or if you're in charge of your company's business ordering, all that paper you got to order or other supplies, definitely hook that up, please.
Think Amazon. Think Guys Telling Stories.
All right, Sean. Thank you. That's a good tagline. Well, Bill, we also have a little new segment we're going to start at the beginning. We are sponsor-free right now. We got some people reaching out to us, and that might change in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. But we're going to start a little something we like to call Try at Home. Each week, Bill and I are going to maybe talk about some products we think are pretty cool, and we'll post them on our website, and you can click through the link there. Go buy them, check them out.
They're going to be unique. Yeah, they're going to be some things that you may or may not want, some things that you can buy anywhere, and some things that you can only find on Amazon.
Absolutely. Well, try this at home this week. Bill, I'll kick it on over to you. What do you got?
I have these LED remote-controlled lit-up cubes, fully rechargeable, waterproof. They come in different sizes, but they're also fun at parties and at weddings and in the pool. Since they're waterproof and indestructible.
Okay, so how big are these things?
Well, they have different sizes. They have 8-inch cubes, which are, little kids love stacking them and change the colors on them, turn them off, they cry, turn them back on, they're fine, stuff like that. And then they get all the way up to 15-inch, and there's some ovals and balls and ice buckets. We have an ice bucket at home. This is all stuff we have, so I'm not just making this up.
No, it is. Bill got these, I think, last summer, and he brought them to my other brother's wedding, and everyone started to stand on the cubes, pick up the smaller cubes, spin them around on their head, and we'll post that video on our website.
Yeah, it was fun, though.
Yeah.
What about you?
You know what I got? I have something that I don't know anybody else in the world that actually has it. And I don't mean it's so unique no one else has it. I just mean I don't know anyone else that has it. You ready?
I'm ready.
It is a padron.
Excuse me?
A padron. Are you ready?
John?
It's a padron.
Pardon.
That sounds right.
A padron is a traditional Spanish communal drinking vessel. It is basically a mixture between like a pitcher of wine and a water canteen. Kind of looks like this glass-shaped container that you kind of funnel the wine into your mouth.
You know the genie lamp from Aladdin, right?
What's that?
The genie lamp from Aladdin kind of looks like that, I feel like.
It looks like a genie lamp. Okay.
You rub it, except you don't rub this. The wine comes out.
Yeah. This is great fun at parties. You pour a little bit of wine in there, about a bottle. You pass it around. Everyone drinks from it. It's going to get all over the place in a good way. It's going to be dripping from people's mouths. You're going to love it. So you can check out the Perone or Bill's LED light-up cubes, available at guystellingstories.com under Try This at Home.
Cool.
All right, let's get to our guest, Bill.
All right.
All right,
This thing's definitely lighting up. Is he calling? No.
That's not how it works. No. Oh, Bill. Listen, excuse the audio. It's the first time we're trying a long-distance guest. We're going to make it better in the future. But our guest today is Tucker Max. Tucker was nominated by one of the folks that sent us a nomination in the off-season.
Alex?
Yep, I think it was Alex that nominated him from Chicago. And Tucker is a 3-time New York Times best-selling author. I think he's written 5 different books. They made a movie about one of his books. I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. And since that time, he's kind of retired that genre of writing and started a new company called Book in a Box. And he's helping people out there who are experts in their field, successful entrepreneurs, educators, businessmen and women, to basically write a book without writing one.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool product. All right, so let's give him a call and let's talk to Tucker. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Guys Telling Stories podcast. I'm Rich Douglas.
I'm Bill Easton.
And we are thrilled to have an amazing guest today, Tucker Max. Tucker, thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Tucker, where are you right now?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, this is one of our first Skype interviews. We have been doing a lot of face-to-face for season 1, so we're happy to connect with you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Happy to be on.
Awesome. Well, what we always like to do is take a guest back to the beginning, a little bit about yourself, titles, accolades. I'm sure tons of people are familiar with you, and then probably tons of people aren't. So, how'd you get your start as an author?
It was blind luck, dude. I sent emails to my friends. After we all left law school, we all kind of hated our jobs, and we all kind of competed to do something dumber and then write a funny email about it.
Nice.
To our friends. And so that's kind of how I started.
Yeah, back in the day before, everybody had a blog or everyone had a podcast, I can imagine, trying to one-up each other with, the best email or the best story would be a pretty good time.
So all I had to do as a kid was email this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you got to write it up in a funny way, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. So, a young Tucker Max, before he was writing the emails, before he was a best-selling author, did you come from a family of writers or creative people, anything like that?
No, man. My mom was a flight attendant, and my dad owns restaurants in South Florida.
Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying. So, did you get some free travel out of that, out of Mom's deal?
Yeah, but it was when I was young, so it kind of sucks. Like, I could have used it a lot more when I got older. But when you're 10, it's like going to Africa or Japan is like you barely even remember it. You can't appreciate it.
No, I went to Europe when I was 18, with an exchange trip as like a high schooler. And I think I missed my girlfriend more than I appreciated,
I miss her too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't miss her anymore. But, oh, God. Well, that's pretty interesting. So any brothers or sisters?
No, only child.
Okay. All right. So, a lot of the folks that we talk with, they're like generation entrepreneurs or, their parents brought them up in the business. Was there ever any pressure or influence to, go into the restaurant business?
No, actually, my dad fired me from the family business.
Is there a story behind that?
How do you get fired from the family business and there not be a story? Of course, yeah.
Yes.
So basically, after law school, I got fired from being a lawyer in 3 weeks, and so I went to work for my dad. And my dad, he was like kind of excited to have me, kind of not. And I got to sort of his company, and I realized everyone at the company was a clown. And so because I was 25 years old and my name was on the door, like it was a family business, I thought, well, I can just, I can do what I want. My dad's going to back me. So I basically told all the clowns that I was going to get them all fired and that we were going to blow this business up. Like it was going to be amazing, but I had to get rid of them first. And so, of course, being an idiot 25-year-old, I didn't realize that, like, in politics, like, reality doesn't matter. Like, being right doesn't matter. What matters is the egos of the people involved. And those people were in their jobs because they were really good at massaging my dad's ego, and I was not. And so they went to war with me, and they ended up getting my dad to fire me.
Wow.
Give us an example of what one of them did.
Well, so here's the thing. I gave them just enough ammunition, right? So like when I would be like managing a restaurant and it would be super slow, and then some girl I was hooking up with would come in and like blow me in the bathroom, right? And it wouldn't impact the business at all. Literally nothing would happen. But like the servers would see me and they would go tell whoever, and then it was like a big controversy, even though there wasn't one customer that was upset at all. In fact, customers love me. So I did enough of those things where my dad just got tired of fighting it, and he decided to pick, the people who assuaged his ego ahead of his son.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. So is that when you decided, hey, let's try my hand at going to law school?
No. Law school was beforehand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like my dad was the second choice after being fired from being a lawyer.
Oh, man. Like when I had a job where I was selling sneakers from 16 to like 18. And, my job was to get down on like a knee and unlace them and say, how does that feel? And check their toe. But somehow I managed to get fired from that job too. And it was heartbreaking, meaning like I felt a sense of like shame or guilt, like I did something wrong. Like I almost like identified with what the job was, and I was good at it. So I know I was like a young kid feeling like silly, but I mean, how'd you feel after being fired from 2 jobs? Like,
I mean, dude, those were the 2 things I trained for. It wasn't like a shoe store. I mean, who cares, right? Just go get another job in the mall.
You're so right.
I went to law school and got fired from being a lawyer, and then I got fired from a restaurant that has my last name on the door. I felt terrible, dude.
Oh, man.
Like it was a disaster, and like that's where the stories came in. So
Yeah.
my friends were like, "Look, man, you're not good at the things that you're trying to be good at, but like these emails you're writing are the funniest things that we've ever read. This is what you need to be doing, not messing around at something you're not good at, which is like what you went to school for."
Have you ever tried a stand-up routine with this stuff? I've read a little bit about you, but I kind of figure, the way you present yourself just now, first time hearing you live, it seems like that might be something you're good at. Because you sound pretty funny. You sound great.
No, stand up is a whole different monster, man. Like I feel like I hate to say it, but I have too much confidence. Like I don't hate myself enough to do stand up comedy. I feel like like to get up and stay on stage and let people just mutilate you and abuse you like that. You've got to have some issue that I mean, God bless them, because the best stand-ups are hilarious, but I don't have that gene in me.
Yeah, we've interviewed a few comedians, and it seems like you have to be able to be lonely and sad and then use that to be funny. When you take those last couple of steps, I've said it before, those final 10 steps from behind stage to that microphone, that can be a pretty lonely walk that not too many people want to make.
Yeah. No, speaking in front of a crowd, doing Q&A, that sort of stuff is easy. But stand-up is like a whole different thing. It's not. It's a very distinct skill. Like, I know a lot of people who were really funny who can't do stand-up comedy. You know.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm hearing that you get fired from the family business, and for me, for you, for anybody, that would be like a time of transition. So, did a friend, a buddy, anybody sort of help you through that time?
No.
Oh.
No, dude, it just sucked.
Oh, well.
Honestly, man, I just stumbled along, and I tried to get my emails published, like as a book, and that was in 01 or 02 actually, and that was like kind of before, it was before MySpace or anything like that, and every publisher and every agent, and I mean 100% literally, summarily rejected me. So I didn't know what else to do, and so there was this website called GeoCities that was brand new. I put up my stuff on the internet, and it blew up. Like, and even early internet blew up. Like, it became kind of this big thing. And then MTV filmed me about this documentary about like people who find girls on the internet or something. I don't really know why they interviewed me, but they did. And then that thing got big, and then it kind of blew up my site. And then all the publishers came back to me and were like, "Hey, like let's do a book with you." And I was like, "The hell with you guys!" But then I ended up actually doing the book that became Beer in Hell because of that whole thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you get that first like taste of like success after being rejected and fired, a lot of people might let that go to their head. I'm assuming you did too.
What, like success or rejection?
See, once you had that rejection and you get that taste of success, and these publishers start coming back, like
but that's not success though. Like, just because I got a $7,500 advance for my first book. So
right.
That's not that's cool. That's better than literally nothing, but it's not a whole lot better than literally nothing. I was expecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in the world to fall on my feet. And of course, none of that happened. And so it was, I didn't get arrogant until way later. You're totally right. But my arrogant douchey stage came when there was a movie being made about my life, but not when there was a book. Right.
Taking that next step, right in that second book, was there any sort of drive to prove somebody wrong? Or did you, for example, have just a new idea? Like, what inspired you to keep going with the writing?
I had more stories to tell. My first book sold a lot, and so I had more stories, so I wanted to sell more. That's basically it.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had to push the envelope and do a little bit more and get a little edgier with them as it went on, or is it just kind of like I have a lot more in the bank that I can?
It was just more in the bank. I think maybe the third book was a little bit I wasn't stretching it. The difference between books 2 and 3 and 1 is that number 1 really did have this kind of raw hunger to it. And 2 and 3 weren't fat, so to speak, but they were just I had enough success that I wasn't, I didn't need it as much, It's sort of the kid who comes from the projects and has a breakout season in college and gets drafted and then floats a little bit in the league before he gets it together.
Right.
Because until you've been fat and happy, you don't know how to relax in a way that's not destructive. And I was kind of like that, yeah.
No, that's actually insightful, relax in a way that's not destructive. If we want to sort of transition into, I don't know, the past 5-6 years, what was one of those steps when you realized I've had some success. This is post-success in the terms of selling books, maybe making money, but I'm looking for something different, something that's going to be more fulfilling, something that's going to be more relaxing. What what was that moment for you?
I don't know if there was a moment, man. It was more just like, you know what the transition for me, I'm still kind of working through it, is like the first probably 30 years of my life, I think, or more, 34, 35 years, I was a fighter. Like, and I thought like a fighter, and I acted like a fighter, and it was like all about external enemies and winning and those sorts of things and beating other people or beating whatever. And I think what I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is that I don't really have enemies, and I don't really have, like, there's no true external competition. The competition is really inside, you know, especially like, listen, it's not like I'm a pro MMA fighter, you know, or a professional basketball player. When you actually do have an opponent, you know, like I was a writer, and now I own a company, and we have we're in a space that we don't really even have competitors. We kind of invented a new space. So the only competitors we have are ourselves. And so it's a very different mindset to go from warrior to builder. You know, a builder, you're just worried about how well do you build this? Are you, doing it right? Whereas a warrior, you're only measuring yourself against opposition. Whereas a builder, you're measuring yourself against an ideal, or a standard. And the only reason you won't get there is if you don't put in the work,
I do. Yeah.
That's super interesting. I can tell just by the tone of your voice and the way you just answered that question that you have an enormous amount of pride in this new endeavor that you're taking on, which is great because, from what you read about you growing up and reading your books and what people said about you, it to all of a sudden turn the focus and want to do something like that and grow inside and help other people. It's not the normal path for what I know about you 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been writing for 20 years, but 20 years ago, let me think.
Well, the story,
20?
yeah,
right. I got you. No, it's like 10 years, but yeah, but it's same. No, you're exactly right. It's not. It's one of those things though that I feel like in a lot of ways my story is, you see it a lot. You see someone kind of get a lot of early success, and they get really douchey because they think it's about them. And then they kind of have to have a failure to learn it's not about them. And then how they react to that failure is who they become, right? Like a great example, I don't know if you guys follow sports, but Johnny Manziel is that dude right now,
Yeah,
but he's at the bottom now. So now how he responds, because the dude is a sick athlete. And if he decides he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, he will be. But he's got to decide that comes first. And that means it's not about him. It's about putting in the work and operating within that system. If he doesn't, then he's just going to become a has-been. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like what he wants to do. And I kind of went through my version of that. And I came out the other side, and it was a lot of painful work, dude. It was not easy to realize that, like, you're not as good as you think, and it's not about you and whatever. But once you kind of do, it actually frees you up to actually do good stuff.
That makes sense. And there's also a limited window for that turnaround to occur. Otherwise, you will struggle as you get older, especially with you commented on Johnny Manziel. His window to turn that around is much shorter than someone that's going into the business world.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Because as an athlete, you only have a few years. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. When you have everything, when you have an opportunity that, to be successful and you sort of find yourself like down at the bottom, a lot of times it's relationships that sort of help you out of that. At least that's kind of how I see it. Did you start to build a team or anything, or what's that? What's the I guess like not a focus group. What
like a tribe?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Tribe.
Yeah, it can be friends, it can be family, It can be anybody. Like, I'm down right now. Who are the people that matter most as I'm going to kind of try to climb out of here? Did you find yourself doing that once you sort of turned the corner on what your focus was?
It's funny you bring that up because one of the things I think I learned about 4 or 5 years ago was that the only thing that actually mattered were the relationships we had with the people we loved. And then sort of as a subset of that, the work that we do that benefits other people. Like those are the only two things that we do that about life that matter, right? And I think I understood that intellectually, but I didn't really, really, truly get that. And, because once I really got that, I kind of one day I had to sit down and realize I had a lot of people in my life who I don't want to call them bad people. They weren't. They just weren't. They weren't the best people. They weren't the people I should have. And the reason, and anytime people say that a lot, you hear that a lot, right? Oh, I didn't have good people in my life. Well, the next question should be, what were you like?
Yeah.
You know, because it's not like there aren't just good people with lots of bad people around them by accident. And the reality was I was attracting a certain type of person because I was that type of person, or at the very least, I was attracted to that type of person. And so for me, I had to go through a stage where I really put in a lot of work on myself, and I really kind of became the person both that I should be and that I thought I was, but I wasn't actually. And then once I did that, then I kind of cleaned my life out in a lot of ways and brought in a whole new set of people who were some of the old people, but for the most part, it's like a whole new set of people who reflect who I am now, right? You know, like my wife's a great example. Like if I'd met her 3 years before I met her, she'd have been like, you're funny, but you're not the right guy for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Dateable.
And exactly. Right. Exactly. And so same thing with my co-founder, my company now. He wouldn't have wanted to work with me 4 or 5 years ago. And but after I kind of made not fundamental changes, but just some behavioral, emotional things, it's like, all right, you're at a good spot. Like good people want to be around good people and bad people want to be around bad people in the most simplistic terms. And I was not the person I should have been years ago. And I had to figure that out and then work on it.
That's a great comment and a great lesson for a lot of us who struggle with their identity and trying to become something else and having a desire to go out and do something, but being held back by the crowd they hang out with, just hanging out with the wrong people.
Yep.
That's absolutely good advice. You know, we're going to get into like current business and what you have going on now, but I was just curious, did you have any obstacles or more like a failure on that road to becoming your own entrepreneur? You know, people are probably going to know about the books and they're going to definitely hear about your company that you have going on right now. But did you, when you started building that team, did you try something and maybe it didn't work out?
Are you talking about my current company?
No, not. Yeah, we're going to get into that in probably the next couple of minutes. But I was curious, you know, with becoming an entrepreneur, sometimes you have some hits and misses. What did you get into in terms of entrepreneurship, you know, that maybe didn't hit?
Oh, dude. The best answer, honestly, and it's usually not something people think of as entrepreneurial, but it very much is the movie that was based on my book, my first book, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. That should have been, by all rights, a massive hit. Like we had an amazing script based on a really hot property, built-in fan base, and it wasn't. It ended up doing really poorly, and the main reason is because of me. And it was really hard for me to see it at the time. But now looking back, like 4 or 5, actually we're 7 years later, I can see that even. So it's exactly what we just talked about. Like I picked a total piece of shit director, and like I can say he ruined the movie, right?
Right.
But here's the thing: I picked him, you know.
Yeah.
And and I picked him for a reason. And so is it his fault that he's a bad director, or is it my fault for picking him? Ultimately, it's my fault for picking him. You know, like I had good directors who wanted to work on this movie and I passed them up for a guy who was the wrong fit. And I'll tell you why I passed him too, because I was arrogant and I was full of hubris. And I thought this guy kind of buttered me up the right way. He appealed to the right parts of my vanity. And deep down, I thought it didn't matter who I picked as a director because the script was so good and because I could get the director to do what I wanted. And he played to that. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll just be your shot maker and I'll help you do this and I'll help you do that. And it's your movie. And like all things that I know now a great director would never say, he said them all. And I was too inexperienced and too arrogant to listen even to the people around me were telling me that. You know?
So realizing that, or when you realized that, how did that change you moving forward? What did you do? How did you get to the point from there to realize what the problem was? Was it meeting your wife? Was it Just
No.
I-
No, I had to fix that first before she would even really talk to me. No, dude, it was like, well, first off, the movie had to fail. Because if the movie had succeeded, then I would have thought that I was a genius.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times, we could probably name a bunch of people if we tried to, people who basically got lucky, but they think their success is because of them. And now you can't tell them anything.
Right.
You know,
right.
I would have been like that. And so it was, I'm never going to tell you I was happy that the movie failed, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me if I was actually going to get my life together. So after that, I had to kind of examine what happened. And I made up a lot of excuses for a lot of years. And they weren't excuses. They were right. The director was terrible. The director ruined the movie. But then one day when I finally kind of had the courage, I was like, well, who hired him, dumbass?
yeah.
Right. And like you said, it was you. And then all of a sudden you go, it was me. So why did I hire him? And you already just told us, he was appealing to your vanity. He was, giving you a false sense of confidence that this thing was going to be amazing. I'm sure he did a competent job based on his own skill set, but obviously it sounds like looking back, if you would have picked a different director, maybe that movie would have, been a hit.
Well, see, here's the problem: is that even if I picked a good director, I was still there. So I did all kind. We haven't even gotten into all the things I did on set that screwed up the movie. A good director would have fired me off of the movie, off of my own movie.
Right, right.
Because I was a total disaster at that point. I had so much of my identity wrapped up in that movie that I couldn't look at it as something independent of me. And that's just a guarantee that you're going to make bad decisions. And I did over and over.
I'm loving these stories because, honestly, Tucker, they're taking you from when you had this best-selling book after book. You had a movie made, and I think it's okay if you're cool with this too. Let's move ahead to kind of current business, and in between the time when you had a failing movie to a successful business, was there anything you started doing to kind of turn it all around for yourself?
Yeah. So most of it was working on myself, man. I got therapy. I spent 4 years in psychoanalysis. I started really getting into meditation. I started I did a lot of work on myself to really understanding my emotional issues and understanding where my problems were coming from and facing really hard truths that I didn't want to face before, but I kind of had to.
That's cool because a lot of people that are in that situation won't take those steps and definitely won't embrace it and discuss it. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, you have a current project going on right now that I think a lot of people are going to be interested to hear about. I was explaining it to a few people in my life, and they thought it was the coolest idea. So if you want to kind of move on to the origin story of Book in a Box, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, how it started?
Yeah, because you know what? It's like this startup world. People just hear all these kind of mythical tales of how it's going. And for you, it sounded like a lot of hard work and basically a chance meeting. So
yeah, that's exactly what it was. So it's kind of funny. I thought I had done all this work, and I kind of had. And then this startup weirdly started because I hadn't done as much as I thought. So I was at this entrepreneur dinner. And this woman comes up to me and she says, "Hey, you're the guy who wrote a bunch of books and knows publishing. Can you help me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she's like, "Look, people have been asking me for a decade to write a book, and because she's like an expert in this niche field, pop-up retail." And she's like, I don't have the time, and I don't like writing. I don't understand book publishing. Is there some way I can get this book out of my head without having to go through the normal process?" And I kind of looked at her and I got a little snobby for a second, right? And I was like, "Are you asking me how to write a book without writing it?" And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of am." And so then I went full writer elitist snobbery. And I started lecturing this woman who's built this huge, amazing company and all these things in her life. I started lecturing her about hard work and about understanding the process and all this nonsense. Right. And so she rolls her eyes at me and she goes, "Tucker, this is an entrepreneur dinner. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you supposed to be here?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I'm an entrepreneur." She's like, well, I'm not so sure that's true because I am an entrepreneur and I spend all day helping people solve their problems. Are you going to help me solve my problem or just lecture me about hard work?
Wow.
I was like, I know, right?
She threw down the gauntlet. Yeah.
She did. And she was right. She's 100% right. And so I became, of course, obsessed with this idea. And for weeks, I hammered myself. How do I get a book out of her head without her having to touch a keyboard? And I honestly didn't think it was possible. I kept coming back to the same idea that you can't write without writing. And then here's how it happened, actually. It's so cliche, right? I was in the shower and I'd had a conversation with someone that day about Keanu Reeves. And she had joked that Keanu Reeves' career peaked in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when he had the conversation, the philosophical debate with Socrates, right? Where they didn't speak each other's language,
right?
And they were just miming.
Socrates.
And I was laughing about that, right? Socrates, yeah. And I was laughing about that, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Socrates is considered the greatest philosopher in Western history, and the man never wrote a word down.
Absolutely.
Never wrote anything down. Plato did. And then you start thinking about it. Jesus didn't write anything down. Buddha didn't. Malcolm X, Winston Churchill. You go down the list. Most of the great minds had someone else, someone called a scribe, write their stuff down. And I was like, oh my God, why couldn't I create a process that essentially reinvented a scribe? Right? Like, somehow in the 20th century, writer became synonymous with thinker. But those two things are totally different, writing and thinking. So I kind of cobbled together this process where I couldn't just talk to her. I had to structure her ideas and then outline them and then interview her to get them out of her head. But we spent about 15 hours on the phone with her, Melissa, the woman that called me out, over about 5-6 months. And we ended up putting it into a book, and it worked really well. I almost couldn't believe how well it worked. And so I thought, okay, this is cool. I solved this problem. And then I went on a podcast and I talked about this just for 15 minutes. It was an hour podcast. We're talking about something totally different. And it was Lewis Howes's podcast, The School of Greatness, which is a pretty big podcast, right? Yeah. And so the next day I get an email. Hey, where's this book in a box thing? How do I sign up? And I was like, I knew the podcast wasn't out. So I was like, how the hell what is going on? I'm like, how do you even know about this?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sorry, dude. I'm Lewis's podcast producer. I thought you knew, but I want to sign up for this. And I was like, I told Zach, the guy who helped me with this, who's my co-founder, I'm like, dude, we need to put up a landing page because this, when the podcast producer is trying to sign up for a business that doesn't exist, that might be a big deal. So we put up a landing page. For book, we just called it Book in a Box because I had no other we had no other name for it, and we ended up doing $200,000 in 2 months.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, this for something that we weren't really even selling.
And everyone's already buying it. Yeah.
Right. That's the definition of product market fit is when people are trying to buy something that you aren't even trying to sell. Then that means what you've done is you've learned how to solve. You really stumbled upon solving a problem, right? And then from there, it was like we kind of created a process and blah, 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 and now here we are,
That's amazing, because anytime you meet somebody that has a problem, chances are there's a lot of other people that have that same problem. And it sounds like you exactly did. You stumbled into something that a lot of people want to write books. I want to write a book. I can't write.
Well, you can write, but
no,
I mean,
I can. Have you seen me?
Well, I know you can write, but
I can barely read.
I have a cousin who wrote a book, and he sent it to me, and I read it, and I realized that he probably spent about 3 years getting that book finally published. He had to write it, he had to edit it, he had to try to get a publisher, and I went back on his Twitter timeline and kind of looked at exactly everything he was going through, reaching out to people, highs, lows. And it can be a very discouraging process just to get the book complete, printed, to hold it in your hand. It sounds like you're helping people out with that in a much more efficient manner.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing. It doesn't make sense. Most people are writing about a topic. If you're writing literary fiction, then, you can't work with us. But if you're a professional or an entrepreneur or a coach or a consultant or CEO or just anyone who knows something, right? It doesn't make sense that you need to learn how to be a writer in order to get your knowledge and wisdom in a book. When your car breaks down, no one says, well, you have to go be a mechanic. That doesn't make sense.
No.
When your sink breaks, you don't try and go learn plumbing. You call a plumber. And for thousands of years, we understood as a culture that scribes was a different job than a thinker. Philosophers and writers were different jobs. It's just recently that somehow people think those two go together. So what your cousin was suffering through is figuring out how to learn a skill that had nothing to do with what he was trying to do, and is unrelated. So yeah, like we figured out a way to help people who have knowledge and wisdom share with the world, get it into a book so they can share it much easier. And then plus get the benefits that they get from the book. Like Melissa has done a couple $1 million in business with her consulting company, because once she wrote the book, it gave away her best secrets, but what that did is just show everyone that she's brilliant and a genius.
Yeah, she's the expert.
And so exactly. So all the people that can afford her went and hired her.
That's fabulous.
Now, let me ask you this, because the one girl that you're working with, she has this knowledge in her head, and you helped her get it out. Has anybody kind of pushed back at you, saying, "Oh, that's not a book, that's not a real book, or they're not real authors"? How would you respond to that?
Is Socrates a real author? No, seriously. I mean, that's literally is Jesus a real author? Is Buddha a real author? Is Winston Churchill a real author? So why is it different? It's the exact same process. Yeah. What's important about a book is the knowledge and wisdom and the ideas in there. Now look, people can write a book that's stupid. It has dumb ideas, right? And just because you sit down and type out dumb ideas doesn't make the ideas good. And just because you speak ideas out loud doesn't make them bad. If that was true, why would we have podcasts?
I know, I'm with you 100%. Just the logistics of figuring out how to be a creator, really of anything, of art, is hard enough. But it's the delivery sometimes that can really kind of hold you up. For us, for example, doing this show face to face, for us it's a little bit more fun. But by using technology, we can have some drinks and sit down with somebody and do an interview. But what I'm getting at is the delivery of the content. That final published part of it can sometimes just kill somebody. They can have a great idea, but they can't get it out and spread it to everybody. So you found a way to do that through a book. Let me ask you, just walk me through it. If I come to you with an amazing idea, I've got the money to pay whatever you guys are charging, how long would it take, and what would it look like for me to get my idea out there in somebody's hands?
It's so if you come to us as a client, well, first off, we have to vet you as a client, because our process doesn't work if you don't know what you're talking about. Because we don't add content. It's not ghostwriting, right?
I'm out.
Once most smart people who come to us they have more than one book in them, actually. So it costs $20,000 and it takes 5 to 6 months total time.
Okay.
And
how many people you got over there doing this?
We have 14 full-time and about 100 freelancers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the plan for it? Where do you see it growing? Is it just going to continue to grow? Or are you going to try to do something a little different in the future with yourself? You're going to kind of step out of that and move on personally and do something different?
I think, to me, I think books is the first step, man. I think that if you think about it, for any creative product, there's a series of steps that you have to go through to get it done. And books are no different than songs or movie scripts or speeches or anything like that. And once we've got it pretty nailed with books, once we get this really scaled, I think we're going to start trying to figure out how to do it with other mediums. So there's no reason that someone who's trying to give a speech needs to learn how to be a great speechwriter. If they have the ideas, there's a process to create a great speech. So why not have them just call us and we walk them through it and we create the speech. It's their ideas and their speech, but we do it with, you know what I'm saying? So they don't have to learn how to give a great speech. They just have to know what they want to say, and there's 50 other things that could potentially work with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where things are headed for you. And I just kind of reflecting on our whole conversation here. You definitely went from a place where maybe for you were the center of attention. It was all about you. And now you literally are helping hundreds of people get their idea out of their head and into somebody else's hands to help. I mean, it's such an amazing transformation. So it's pretty awesome. If you find somebody pretty successful, or maybe somebody that's kind of in transition, maybe like you were maybe 5-10 years ago, I don't know, any advice to kind of help them change from being somebody that's a little bit self-centered to maybe where you're at now, helping other people?
Oh, man. I put in 40 years of work, like going 4 times a week, psychoanalysis.
Okay.
And so here's God, that's such a good question. It's hard to answer though. Oh, well, the first part of the answer is if you don't actually want to become that way, you won't. So you've got to really make the decision you want to be that way. Then you have to put in the work. And because if you're not that way, there's probably an underlying reason. There's some emotional issue or set of emotional issues you have. So you've got to figure out what they are, and you've got to work to get past them. And that's almost impossible to do alone. Usually you need multiple different sort of attacks at the angle, great relationships in your life, talk therapy, meditation, yoga. There's so many different things to do that you can do, but it doesn't have to be, but you just can't do it alone,
Yeah. Well, how hard was it to say goodbye, to your old self?
It was extremely hard, dude. It was because the unconscious works like have you ever known a girl, for example, that had a really shitty abusive boyfriend, but she wouldn't leave?
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
because that's just one example, but it's an easy example. The reason that is because the way the human brain works, the unconscious works, is that we will take the shitty thing that we know over the uncertain thing that we don't know, even if the uncertain thing is better, right? And so the girlfriend who stays with the abusive boyfriend is an example of that, right? And it's very simplified, but the point is people are the same way. I knew that being an arrogant asshole wasn't working for me anymore, but it was really hard to change because deep down, it's not that I was afraid to change. It's like I think unconsciously assumed that that's where all my success came from, and that's if I change, I lose who I am, and I don't know who I am anymore, and all those sorts of fears that come up, right? And so it takes a lot of work, man. You got to get up. It's sort of like going to the gym. It's like there's no one session or one lift that changes your life, but if you get up and go every day, 3 days a week for all of a sudden in 3 months you look great or good, and in 6 months you look great, in a year you're looking amazing, and but it's hard to tell exactly what thing it is that did it. It's no different than getting over emotional issues. You've got to every day put in that work, and slowly but surely you kind of move past it. I don't know if I'm answering your question well or not.
I think you did a great job answering
and
that.
I think the gym example, I think a lot of people are going to take to heart. Those transformations, the physical ones, they never happen overnight, and everybody accepts that. I got to keep going 3 days a week, like you said, and it might not even look that good after 3 months, but in a year, maybe I'm a new person. And like you said, it works the same way with the mental and emotional stuff. So I think, that story and your answer to that question are going to be pretty inspirational to a lot of people out there. And hearing it from you, I think, is going to be something that's very refreshing for people.
Cool. Good. Man, if I can help anyone, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So can you, are you allowed back at the restaurant?
My dad's restaurant? Yeah, of
Okay.
course. I can go eat, no problem. I just can't work
You just
there.
can't work there still?
man.
Well, maybe that's the next thing. You could fill out an application and see if he lets you back in.
Yeah, right.
Well, Tucker, if we could have you plug your social media, your new business, for anybody out there that's interested in following you and checking out what you're doing.
Yeah, no, just book in a box, man. Bookinabox.com if you're interested. Our process is really cool. 20 grand is not cheap. So if you can't afford us, we have a book on Amazon that's like $5.99 or something that literally runs through our exact process with the full templates that our freelancers use and everything. So you don't have to afford us to use the process.
That's awesome.
So if you guys are interested, check out Tucker online, check out the book, and man, this has just been incredible. I really appreciate you doing the interview.
Thanks for
so
coming
much,
on.
Tucker.
Of course, bud.
You should have seen how hard it was for just to figure out what time it was here when it was 3:00 there. It was a nightmare.
Central Time. Oh.
Wait, what time is it in Vegas?
Yeah, right. Well, Tucker, thanks for doing the interview. Guys, this has been another amazing episode of Guys Telling Stories. I'm Rich Douglas.
I'm Bill Easton.
All right, Bill, Tucker Max.
That was good.
Yeah, what crazy stories, man.
That's a good way to open a season.
Yeah, he's our season premiere, as you guys know, and we were happy to have him on. And I think the whole, Skype interview, long distance thing worked out. What do you think?
I think he's calling back, though. No.
That's not him, no. Oh, and one more thing, and this is kind of exciting. I'm glad you stuck around to the end because we have a new feature we're going to call...
Drum roll.
Are we ready? Guys Telling Stories Short Story Special.
I'm not saying it.
So if you head to our website, guystellingstories.com, and click on the support link, it takes you to the Patreon page. Patreon is a website, kind of like crowdfunding meets social media. And what we've done there is we have posted a Tucker Max short story special
That's
there.
funny.
Yeah, it's the story behind how he got fired from being a lawyer. And he wasn't even a lawyer yet. He was, finishing.
Just kind of a lawyer.
Yeah, he was working on law school.
Yeah.
So it's a great story. It's a
funny.
short story.
It was good.
And it's available to all the people that support the show. So you can head to guystellingstories.com, click on the support link, and it takes you to the Patreon page. If you want more Tucker Max, head to our website and click on the support link.
Unless you're Tucker Max, then you can just call us.
Yeah, we'll send it to you, Tucker. No problem.
Not on Skype.
All right, Bill. As always, it's another
This was
fantastic
fun.
episode of Guys Telling Stories. I'm Rich Douglas.
I'm Bill Easton.
All right. Talk to you next time.